Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th president of the United States in the fall of 1860. It was actually only the second time he would hold federal office. Now, of course, Lincoln became very famous in 1858 when he ran for the U.S. Senate against sitting Senator Stephen Douglas in the state of Illinois. Of course, Lincoln lost that election. The only time Lincoln held federal office prior to becoming president of the United States was when he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives from the state of Illinois in 1846. As Lincoln was sworn into the House of Representatives in early 1847, the backdrop of what was happening in the country was that the United States was at war with Mexico. The war with Mexico had begun in the spring of 1846 when the troops under command of General Zachary Taylor, that is the future President Zachary Taylor, were allegedly attacked on U.S. soil in southern Texas on April 24th, 1846. And immediately afterwards, President James K. Polk asked for a war declaration from the U.S. Congress. Now, it's not like everybody was on board with this. Some people in the government, some people throughout the country were a little bit concerned that this was a land grab, that it was about, gaining extra territory for the expansion of slavery. But in the end, overwhelmingly, the U.S. Congress did vote to go to war with Mexico. Fast forward just under a year, and a young Abraham Lincoln enters the House of Representatives, and he's not having any of it. Abraham Lincoln did not believe that the war with Mexico was justified whatsoever. So at this point in time, there is no modern Republican Party, the party that Lincoln would become symbolic of. At this point in time, Lincoln is a Whig. And keep in mind, Lincoln is entering Congress as a first-term U.S. representative from Illinois, and he has no problem at all calling out President Polk for what he thought was a lie. He went on the floor of the U.S. Congress, and he declared that he wanted to know the exact spot where blood had supposedly been shed on American soil. This was the argument that President Polk had made in his justification of the Mexican-American War. He declared that American blood had been shed on American soil. Lincoln wasn't buying it. So Lincoln introduced what was called his spot resolution. And in the spot resolution, he wanted the exact spot marked where this blood had supposedly been shed. Now, this was introduced by Lincoln in December of 1847. The war would end by treaty in 1848. The House of Representatives did not take up Lincoln's spot resolution, and in the end, it really ended up costing him some political capital back home in Illinois. In fact, due to Lincoln's spot resolution, one newspaper in Illinois began calling him Spotty Lincoln. So in the end, it did make a whole lot of difference. Obviously, by the time he had introduced the war resolution, the war was basically wrapping up. Winfield Scott had taken Mexico City by that point in time. It was just a matter of time. Now, Lincoln's words in going after President Polk and his skepticism of the rationale for the Mexican-American War did not go unnoticed in Mexico. In fact, Abraham Lincoln became very much revered in Mexico. Today, you can find 4 statues of Lincoln throughout the country of Mexico. And the president of Mexico, who served concurrently with Abraham Lincoln, in fact, they were both sworn in March of 1861, that being Benito Juarez, was a huge admirer of Lincoln, and the feeling was very much mutual. Juarez was nicknamed the Abraham Lincoln of Mexico. So in the end, Lincoln's spot resolution didn't really go anywhere. But to me, it is an interesting story because it shows this young man who was in his very first term as a U.S. representative, and he wasn't afraid to go after the President of the United States for something that he thought was unjust. It's a great window into the man that would become the 16th President of the United States.